Our top story, transforming cancer care. A new hospital opens in one of the worst affected areas of the country. People in Merseyside and Cheshire are more likely to develop the disease than almost anywhere else in the UK. Also tonight, new life in lockdown inside the maternity unit, helping mums and newborns during the pandemic. Home at last, the little boy whose health worker mum sent him to live away to keep him safe.
And after some rather wet and windy weather across the northwest, a couple of changes over the coming days. I'll be back with all the details.
It's the culmination of an 8-year vision to revolutionise the treatment of cancer in Merseyside and Cheshire. Today, the new Clatterbridge Liverpool opened, offering state-of-the-art facilities free from coronavirus, which is a particular risk to cancer patients. It serves an area where people are more likely to develop cancer than nearly anywhere else in the UK. Merseyside and Cheshire has 18,000 new cases of cancer every year. That's 76% higher than the European average. The new hospital offers pioneering treatments like gene therapy to a population of 2.4 million people, currently served by Clatterbridge centres in Wirral and Aintree. Well, our Merseyside reporter Andy Gill has been looking around the new hospital today, and he joins us from there now. Andy.
Yes, Annabel, one of the important things about the new facility is its location. Close to the university, more on that in a minute. Close also to the new Royal Hospital, the building with the scaffolding on, so that anyone with cancer coming to the new Clatterbridge Centre here who needs urgent medical or surgical intervention can get it at the Royal. Those two buildings will be physically linked. The Royal, of course, postponed by a couple of years. But this centre here, now fully open today, 11 stories of bang-up-to-date equipment and treatment for people from parts of this region who are suffering from cancer. Nurses prepare a brand new radiotherapy machine in the basement of the new Clatterbridge Cancer Centre in Liverpool. For the first time today, it welcomed outpatients who come here for treatment like this.
It's a nice building, isn't it? But it's what it does, what the people do here. You've got to be impressed, haven't you?
The new centre cost £162 million. It serves an area where high rates of smoking, poor diets and poverty mean cancer rates are high. For decades, cancer treatment for people in Cheshire, Merseyside and the Isle of Man was centred at Clatterbridge in Wirral. Treatment will still go on there and at Aintree Hospital, but the Liverpool Centre will become the main hub.
It's going to be of huge importance. Sadly, we know rates of cancer in the northwest are some of the highest that we see compared to the rest of the country. So offering this facility, in addition to our others, is going to mean that we can bring care right to the heart of where it's needed.
All 110 inpatient beds are in individual ensuite rooms, which reduces the chance of infections, including coronavirus. Outpatient facilities have improved too. When outpatients come in for chemotherapy, this is one of the bays where they would have their treatment. They're all individual bays, they can be curtained off, giving the patients much more privacy. The new building has lots of natural light, and it's deliberately designed with materials and colours to reflect the natural world.
Cancer patients are going under quite a stressful sort of experience with their families, so we've tried to design a hospital that doesn't look like a hospital, that is kind of full of as much landscape as possible, incorporating art, interior design.
Research into new drugs and treatments is a vital part of what Clatterbridge does, and its new location will help that.
It connects us to the university, connects us to the academics, it connects us to the Royal ITU department, so we can look at very much early drugs, early phase 1 drugs that have not been tested in humans before.
Many cancer treatments have been postponed by COVID-19. The new centre means that this part of the region is well served when normal clinical activity returns. Many of the clinical trials which Clatterbridge were carrying out had to be postponed because of coronavirus, though they are restarting again. As well as all the up-to-date equipment, they also have support teams here for teenagers and young adults with cancer. And one nice touch, the very first person to have a CT scan here this morning went home with a bunch of flowers.
Oh, that's nice. Andy, thanks very much indeed. We're staying in Liverpool now, and Liverpool's football manager Jurgen Klopp has written an open letter to the club's supporters, urging them not to risk lives by gathering to celebrate until it is safe to do so. Two men appeared in court this morning, resulting from disorder at the pier head on Friday evening. Yunus Mulla joins us from there now. So, Yunus, this is, really quite strong stuff from Jurgen Klopp, isn't it?
Well, Jurgen Klopp has often spoken about the passion and the commitment fans have shown to Liverpool Football Club and also the city itself. And he's also talked about the solidarity shown by people here in Liverpool in fighting COVID-19. But he wasn't impressed by what took place here at the pier head on Friday, when thousands of people gathered against the advice of supporter groups, the club and also police. In an open letter today to Liverpool Echo, he says, "What I did not love, and I have to say this, was the scenes that took place at the pier head on Friday. Right now, the most important thing is that we do not have these kind of public gatherings." He goes on to add that we owe it to the most vulnerable and to the health workers to celebrate when the time is right and when it is safe. Now, on Friday, there were a number of different incidents, including one in which a firework was thrown at.
Oh, that's a shame. We seem to have lost the link with Yunus Mulla there in Liverpool. Right, moving on now. 3 people are reported to have died in hospitals in the northwest after testing positive for coronavirus in the last 24 hours. It brings the total number of COVID-related deaths in the region to 4,671. But there can be a delay in reporting the figures at the weekend. 2 hospital workers who broke the Isle of Man's COVID-19 laws by visiting pubs have been spared jail. Stuart Strike from Leyland and Stuart Hislop from Staffordshire stopped to watch football en route to buying a meal after arriving from England last week. Manx rules allow key workers to avoid a mandatory 14-day quarantine, but insist on self-isolation when not on shift. The pair admitted failing to comply with the direction and was sentenced to 4 weeks suspended for 12 months. Children on the Isle of Man have gone back to school today. It is the first place in the British Isles where all years have returned to education, and there's no social distancing at all. But it has also reignited a long-running dispute between teaching unions and education authorities. Alex Bell reports.
1, 2, 3.
Coronavirus hasn't just interrupted lessons, it's put children's entire lives on hold. But here on the Isle of Man, they're now free to sing, play and learn again without restrictions.
Various countries have tried to open their schools with social distancing, with people separated, with people wearing masks. And I certainly had parents saying, I don't want to send my kids back to school if it's under those conditions. We've managed to get kids back into a normal school environment.
Can everyone then put their bags on their chairs?
Have you enjoyed being off school?
Kind of.
Kind of?
Yeah, I kind of missed school and kind of enjoyed it.
It's not been fun. I've got too much cabin fever.
I miss quite a lot of my friends. I have been in contact, but it's not the same.
I thought I would be off for the whole year, and I would really enjoy that.
As normal life resumes, so too do issues from before the pandemic. When the virus hit, teaching unions were in the midst of a long-running industrial dispute with the Education Department. Now negotiations can resume, the threat of industrial action looms again.
It's been about so much more than pay. It's been about the way they treat us, the lack of respect they have for us, the lack of communication.
I'm hoping for improved relationships because ultimately that will have better outcomes for pupils.
Some of that trust and relationship has broken down. My job is to try to repair that, and certainly that was my main priority until we had to close all the schools down with coronavirus.
But for now at least, relief that children are back in the classrooms safely. Alex Bell, BBC North West Tonight in Douglas.
Now, farmers in the region say they welcome the government's decision to ban any food imports which would be illegal to produce in the UK. It means no hormone-injected beef or chlorinated chicken for British supermarkets. The U-turn follows a petition by the National Farmers Union, signed by more than 1 million people. Well, Richard Pedley is an Upland Hill farmer who we've been following throughout the year. Our environment correspondent Judy Hobson has been back to Kirkby Lonsdale to see him.
Just 94 sheep to shear today, out of 1,200. It's hard work, but there's no market for wool this year. It's worth nothing. Next, to check on the cattle, Richard Pedley's livestock are reared to some of the highest welfare standards in the world.
Producing our livestock to the standards that we currently do obviously increase the costs of production, but we are proud as British farmers to produce our stock in this wonderful environment.
There had been fears food produced to lower standards of welfare could be imported from countries like the United States.
It would drive the price down of livestock in this country. If it was driven any lower, then we'd be left with no alternative. We'd have to give up farming.
But today, a government spokesman said, this government has been clear it will not sign a trade deal that will compromise our high environmental protection, animal welfare and food safety standards. Chlorinated chicken and hormone-injected beef are not permitted for import into the UK. It also added that this would become law. It's being hailed as a major success for the National Farmers Union, which set up a petition to ensure the quality of food imports, and more than 1 million people signed it.
This is about food standards and high animal welfare, and ensuring that the products that come in are produced to the same welfare standards that we do.
All of our fresh meat is sourced from the UK.
Adding weight to the campaign had been one of the region's biggest supermarkets.
We know that the general public is really, really supportive of getting to a level playing field where our farmers and growers can compete.
Trade policy is very complex, but the National Farmers Union say the issue is simple, that the British public really does care about its food, where it comes from and how it's produced. A no-deal Brexit could still see tariffs imposed on Richard Pedley's lamb exports, which he fears would halve the price of his lamb. But he says he'd never lower his welfare or environmental standards.
That's our passion, that's our life. You know, we probably don't get anywhere near enough compensated for the work that we do, but that's what we do.
Judy Hobson, BBC North West Tonight, Kirkby Lonsdale.
Now, there's no doubt the last 3 months have been difficult for everyone, but it's been a particularly worrying time for women about to give birth. In the last of her exclusive reports, our health correspondent Gill went to the Lancashire Women and Newborn Centre in Burnley to see the measures they've put in place to protect the babies and their mothers.
In the neonatal ICU, Natalie and Andrew are watching over twins Finn and Alana.
I'm missing parents being around, and they're dying to meet them and cuddle them and get them home.
The twins turned up a week ago at just 28 weeks, so they're very premature.
You're both very cheerful today. It must have been a really worrying time one way or another.
Oh yeah, I've had meltdowns. I'm just not doing it now. No, there's been tears, lots of tears, but no, I couldn't be prouder, and I couldn't be any more in love.
Because this is a specialist centre, babies are transferred here from surrounding hospitals. Ruby was born 11 days ago in Barrow, 90 miles away.
Well, Ruby got transported and then Dad followed, and then I followed once I was discharged.
The risk of infection means Bethany's other children have had to stay away.
We've got a 14-month-old daughter, and we also have a 7-year-old son.
And where are they?
They're at our house with grandparents.
That must be quite difficult.
It is very, very hard.
Premature babies are particularly at risk from COVID because their lungs are so underdeveloped. So the units had to implement strict infection control measures.
Unfortunately, for parents, we can't let them in unless they have been tested for COVID and ensure that they are negative. And for the babies that come in here, if they come in here newly, we wait for mom or the parent swabs to come in negative before we relax our measures on handling them.
But a few weeks ago, it was even stricter.
At first, parents weren't allowed to visit together, so obviously you're in here on your own all day, trying to swap with your partner when they can get in. So yeah, it can be lonely, but with the staff obviously trying to get involved and things like that.
Even now, national guidelines mean all pregnant women have to shield and no partners are allowed into hospital until the birth itself.
You were only allowed in active labour, weren't you?
Yeah. Until we knew they were coming, for definite. Yeah, I was just getting text messages and a few teary phone calls.
And for a healthy baby, that's the only time they can be there.
Once they're on the postnatal ward, they're not allowed any visitors, including their partner, and then the next time they will see them is when they go home.
And that's tough for everyone. Baby Reggie is just 18 hours old. Is your partner seeing Reggie then?
Yeah, literally for about an hour after he was born, and then he had to leave.
And what was that like when he had to go?
Not good. He was like, he wanted to obviously stay with us for a bit longer, but because I had the section, he weren't allowed to.
But along with the drawbacks, the policies had some unexpected benefits.
I think when they have the partners here, it's very nice and it's very supportive, but they don't actually talk to the other mummies in the bay and they don't get to know people.
The unit's seen a slight increase in breastfeeding rates and fewer babies becoming underweight.
They're very rested, they're very quiet, but above all, they're talking to each other in the bays, offering each other support, getting each other through the long nights, so it's been really good.
Back on the ICU, Finn and Alana are doing well.
Well, they will be fine. It's just a bit of a long process until we get them home, but they're in the best place they can be for where they are.
Ruby's condition has stabilised, but there's a long road ahead.
Ruby's not due till September, so I think we're going to wait for the goal towards a due date. It's just on Ruby's terms whenever she's ready.
So you might actually be here till September?
We could be, yeah, depending on how Ruby progresses. It's all just one day at a time.
While 8 weeks on, Theo's coming to the end of his time here.
He's doing really well, really well. We're hoping for a home date very, very soon, so we're just sort of working towards that, really.
Are you optimistic?
Yeah, I am optimistic, yeah. But the next couple of months, I think, will still be a struggle for us.
I mean, obviously you're thinking about the future a lot.
Yeah.
What do you think about it when you do?
I just hope that face masks and that all he's known is face masks, you know, and eyes, that's all he's known. So I just hope that, you know, going forward, it's not going to be that for him.
Jill Dummigan, BBC North West Tonight, Burnley.
Oh, we wish them well and hope that all those babies can get home as soon as possible. We would also like to thank them, of course, and all the patients and staff from the East Lancashire Hospitals Trust who have featured in Gill's series over the past week. Now, we could be heading towards an all-Manchester FA Cup final after both City and United won through to the last four. City, the holders, will face Arsenal in the semi-finals, while United will take on Chelsea. With a look at how they've got there and a couple of key results in the Championship, here's Richard Askam.
Determined to put a tough few days behind them, Manchester City are still on course for 3 trophies. And when they clicked into gear against Newcastle, had too much class for their hosts. Kevin De Bruyne opening the scoring from the spot before Raheem Sterling sealed victory with a cracking second.
Sterling's ignored him and gone for goal!
To send the Blues through to a semi-final clash against Arsenal.
With solid performance, we concede few, and yeah, I'm happy to be back to London, to Wembley.
An all-Manchester final.
We're pleased, we're in the semi-final and that's all that matters really.
In the Championship, Preston North End have fallen out of the playoff positions after a 3-1 defeat to Cardiff, who jump above North End into 6th. Daniel Johnson with the goal for P&E. Blackburn Rovers' playoff hopes also took a hit at Wigan Athletic. The Latics, in terrific form, won a tight match 2-0, thanks to late goals from Lee Evans and Michael Jacobs, making it 8 games unbeaten for Paul Cook's men, who move 5 points clear of the bottom 3. Richard Askam, BBC North West Tonight.
And tonight, Burnley are in action against Crystal Palace. We'll have a result of that on our news at 10:30. Now, the photographer Rankin has taken a break from celebrities and high fashion, turning his lens instead on some of the real heroes of the past few months, hospital staff. His portraits include an intensive care doctor from Macclesfield, a nurse from Manchester and a cleaner from Leighton Hospital in Crewe. They'll all be displayed on billboards across the country, and they've been telling us how it feels to be part of a project that makes sure that history will remember them.
I'm Mark Lyons. I'm intensive care doctor at Macclesfield District General. It's not very often we get presented with a totally new condition. So for all of the NHS, it's been, a kind of learning on the job experience. People have had to be extremely flexible in the way we've worked, and we've had to really lean on each other.
My name's Emma Kelly and I'm a staff nurse in intensive care at the Manchester Royal Infirmary. It was very daunting because I think no one really knew what to expect. It was such an unprecedented time for everyone. I just want to make everyone proud and help in any way I can for our patients as well, providing care that you'd expect for your own family to receive. That's one of the biggest things for me.
Laura Arrowsmith. I'm a domestic. I clean the wards. It's changed massively because obviously we've got double the cleans, quick changeovers in the same amount of time.
What's funny is every single one of them said, "This is just my job. This is what I do." They would, and if I said to them, "You're a hero," they would say, "We're not heroes." And the humility is incredible.
It's quite a serious picture. I'm not as serious as that usually. I've thanked Rankin privately for doing this because I think it's nice that he's taken the time and recognised the opportunity to capture a moment in time like this.
I really like the photograph. I think they're all really powerful and I think Rankin really captured the emotion behind our stories really well.
It's nice to be recognised because obviously, to be fair, you're not, as a domestic, you're not always recognised. Obviously that photo was a meaning, obviously they were thankful for what I did.
It's such a great way to recognise the work of NHS staff, isn't it? And throughout the COVID crisis, we've been hearing stories of sacrifice and success against the odds, and we've two more for you this evening. A woman who has beaten the virus at the age of 102, and a little boy who has finally come home after being separated from his mum for months. She's a health worker and she didn't want to expose him to danger. Dave Guest has more.
It's no wonder Blake's excited about arriving home. He hasn't been here for the best part of 4 months. His mum, Sinead, was working on a COVID ward in Greater Manchester. She and Blake's dad, Tom, made the heartbreaking decision the 4-year-old would be safer staying with his grandparents during the worst of the coronavirus crisis.
For about a week I was like, no, I'm not going to do it, but I knew it was the right thing in all and I knew the hospital needed me.
But Blake's now back home at last. Mum's ward's been switched back to normal duties and she's been given a couple of weeks off. And are you glad to be home?
Do you like being back home? No.
No.
Do you not like being at home now? Should we go back to Granny's house then? No.
I think you're a bit of a joker. I mean, you've obviously had to make a huge sacrifice, not seeing your son for the best part of 4 months. Has it been worth it though?
Yeah, being there for my patients when their families couldn't. Like, I couldn't be with my son, but it was like I was giving my all, looking after them and looking after them until they could go back to their families. And I knew my mum and dad were doing the same.
Of course, Sinead's story typifies the sacrifices made by so many health workers during the crisis. But those workers will often find their reward in uplifting stories such as Mary's. She's 102 years old, yet amazingly has beaten off the virus. Mary lives at the Birch Court Care Home in Warrington.
She was quite poorly with it. It knocked her off her feet. It's a bit touch and go at one point. At 102, you think, you know, this is it. But she's amazed us all.
So what do you put it down to, her recovery?
She's a strong person, and she's very strong.
Blake, meantime, is delighted to be reunited with his favourite dinosaur. Oh, yes, and of course, to be reunited with Mum and Dad too. Dave Guest, BBC North West Tonight.
Lovely stories. Right, let's get a look at the weather now. Here's Owain.
Hello everyone, I hope you're well. Low pressure, that's what's been running the show as far as the weather's concerned over the past few days. It is very slowly moving away from us, and we'll have a closer look at the detail as far as the weather's concerned in just a moment. But first, let's see some of your pictures. Many thanks as always for these. Phil in Liverpool has sent me some action shots of the starlings in his garden having some food. Sal on Twitter, meanwhile, tells me that she's invested in some window bird feeders. Oh, how fancy, Sal. And she enjoys seeing the birds coming over for a little feed as well. And I couldn't resist, everyone, a very happy birthday to Albert the cat, who lives in Altrincham. Now, Albert is 100 years old today in cat years, but I'm reliably informed that in human years, that is 21 years old. Enjoy your day, Albert, darling. You can send me those pictures on Twitter or on Instagram. Okay, on to the weather forecast. The satellite image at the moment is looking gorgeous. You can see this swirl of cloud up to the north. It looks nice, but its effects are less pleasant because it is the low pressure that I mentioned earlier on. Now, this is very slowly moving away from us, but we'll still feel the force of it tonight. Very strong winds across the northwest and further outbreaks of rain. Now, the rain is becoming more scattered. It'll turn lighter as well, with a few heavy downpours remaining in place. Temperatures down to 12 or 13 Celsius. Now, tomorrow morning, still quite breezy or blustery, a lot of cloud cover out there, but things will brighten up at times as we head through the day, and the winds will ease as well. Still some patchy, drizzly rain around. Tomorrow's top temperatures, I think, in the mid-teens for most of us. We may get a bit higher than that here or there. Now, as the low pressure moves away from us over the next few days, we still have a scattering of weather fronts across the UK. Temperatures very slowly rising, however, so I think the chance of seeing a bit more in the way of brightness as we head through towards Thursday. I'll keep you posted, of course. That's how it's looking. I'll see you soon.
Thanks, Owain. Now, tomorrow it is 100 days since the North West went into lockdown, and we will be marking this on North West Tonight, reflecting on the highs and lows of an unprecedented period in our history, including some amazing and uplifting interviews. That is tomorrow evening at 6:30. But from everyone here, for now, good night.